Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue. So if you're one of those that haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and helps me make more and better videos. So thank you to everyone that has subscribed and those supporting me on Patreon. I really appreciate it. So let's continue here, and we are almost towards the end of our series. We're going to list a few things that are remaining. So for now, if I go to, I'm logged in as a student, by the way. So if right now we can write tests, we can take those tests and we can mark those tests, and then the pupil gets to see their test results. But there's still a few problems that we have to deal with before we can call it a day. So first of all, here on tests, I want this to have a notification to at least show the student what number of tests they haven't taken yet. I think we can pretty much do that. Here we can use the 0% here because it shows how much of this has been answered. So if it's 0%, it means that test was not taken. So at least we can use that to determine how many tests that the user has not taken. And then if you look at this right now, we have a slight problem here. The order of the tests here is not very good, because you see here there's October, November, and then there's September. So there's no sequence here of any kind. And because of how we are reading this information, it's very difficult to create pagination with this method. And that is because we are reading each test one by one. So let's go to our controller and let me explain a little what I mean here. So if I go to tests.php, of course I'm logged in as a student, so let's ignore the admin section for now. Let's go to the else section here, and this is the part right here. So we have several queries that are run to return the result that we see there. So the first thing we do is we check if this is a student or this is a lecturer. So in our case, we are students. And so what we do is we get all the classes that this student belongs to, which is logical. And then, because we don't want to show them tests that they have no interest in, and once we get those classes, we then get the tests, all the tests that belong to all those classes, and then we show that result. This section right here is for search purposes. Like I said earlier, we're going to deal with that a little bit later. Now, this makes it very difficult, the way we are doing things, to do things like search. And also it makes it very difficult to do things like pagination, because if you look here, we have a for each loop that gets just one test at a time and then adds it to the current array. So if I want to do pagination here, it's going to be a little bit hard. And then if I want to order these tests by a certain order, excuse me, it's going to be difficult as well, because what we are doing here is we are getting one class and then getting all the tests from that class, we display them, and then we get the next class and get all the tests and display those as well. This makes it difficult to order the tests in a particular order, because depending on the class, one class might have a test that was created last year and then one today. Those will be read at the same time. Meanwhile, the next class will have classes that were created in between, and then they'll come after that, which just messes up the order altogether. So if you haven't, if my rambling here hasn't convinced you of the problem, that's not an issue. Let's just create one query. It's always best to create one query to get everything you need, because that sorts out a lot of problems. And let me see here. Another problem that this causes. Oh, this is the other problem is on the profile page. We'll see also how to fix that issue, which is similar to this. So what I'm simply saying here is, instead of us reading several times from the database, we can do it only once. So let's see how we can do this. We would do this in the same way we did with the previous things, with the previous few videos. So first of all, we have this query that returns exactly what we want, right? So this is good. Now the problem is it returns all the columns. So what I need here is for it to return only what I need, which in this case is the class ID. So I don't need anything else, I just want the class ID. So let me just copy that and let's put the class ID over there like this. So select class ID from that. So once we do this, right, it means now, oh, by the way, let me preserve this find section because I will need it later to do the search thing. I don't want to have to start from scratch. So what I would do is let me preserve it right there as a comment. Okay, so we read this query like this. This is good. The order shouldn't really matter here because all we want is the class IDs. So let's remove the order by ID descending there. It's completely irrelevant. Okay, so everything else is good because we don't need to read those users that are disabled because they are no longer part of that class. So this is all good. So once we have that, and we have the user ID here, and this is part of that user ID, that is good. So what I want to do is, also a good practice is if you're going to make major changes that may affect how your everything will be, you might as well want to preserve this in a comment. So let me just undo and preserve the whole thing here. Okay, so the search is right here. So let's preserve everything from here like this, just in case we get lost along the way, we will know how to get back. So this else is for that, so that is good. So first of all, I will get this query here. So copy that query. I need at least these 2 lines. So let me get that and put here like this. Okay, so of course I will remove the order by descending because it's practically useless. We want all the class IDs and then we use those inside another query. Yes. So the other query is this one. This one is for the search, so we can ignore this. But this is the actual query that gets the tests. So let me copy that and I'm just going to put it right here like that. Okay, so let's combine the two. So I'm going to leave the disabled here because it's important. When this is a student, we don't want them to see disabled tests because those are being edited by the lecturer. But if it's a lecturer, they should see even the disabled ones because they are the ones editing those disabled ones. So that remains as it is. So select all from tests where disabled, blah, blah, blah. Now the important part is right here where the class ID is equal to class ID. Now this was okay because we were looping through and giving it one class at a time. But what I want us to do is give it all the classes from the result of this other query. So what we would do is we'll say class ID. Instead of equal, we're going to say in because we're going to give it an array. And this is important. Only one column should be returned by this query that is inside another query, right? That is nested. So here, let's put a bracket like so and close it over here. Simple as that. So here we're saying disabled, yes. And then the class ID should be one of these in this result, which has one column as the result. Okay. Cool. Now the beauty of this is we can then do an order here and say order by, right, at the end of this. So we can look for the tests table to see what we can order this by. So let's go into the test table and let's give it a second here to load. This is not the I should be going to this. Yes. And so what I want is to look for the tests table. Let's see what I can order my tests by. And I can use the date. Or because the date comes in order with the primary key, I would rather use the primary key because it's easier to resolve the order by this ID than to look at the entire date. So just for speed purposes, I will use the ID. So let's use order by ID descending at the end here. Order by ID descending. Save that. So that's a query we should run. Let's go back to the page and let's look at the order right now. It's like this. So we're going to do a second version where we compare and contrast. So I will copy this just to preserve this and open this in a new tab, paste like so. Oh, sorry about that. We ran something that isn't yet complete, but we use this and then we'll compare with the other one. So once we are here, the only variable in this is the user ID. So this is good. The user ID will work. And let's try and use this because it's already set up. Let's copy that and paste it here. But instead of adding this to this, let's add it to the final data variable. So let's just put that data over there like so. And let's get the results of this. So back here, let me refresh. And there we go. Look at that. Much cleaner. And it actually works to order these things. So see September, October, and November, which is much better than what we had here. And the beauty is that we can do, oh, sorry about that. We can do limit and order by. For example, here I can say limit to. That way I get only 2 results because it's one query. Look at that. Very nice. But we will use that for our pagination momentarily. Let's see here. Do we have pagination variables? No, we don't. So we can easily add those there. So since it's working, this is all good. All we need to preserve really is this part. Now, this is important as well because it helps us do the search a little bit easier. So let me put the search content here in comment form as well for later, like this. Yes, because now we can use one query and run that to find a particular test that we want. So very easy. Let me close this one. Let me delete all this. We don't need this anymore. Out. So look at that. All this has been replaced by just these 3 lines over here, which is much neater. Now, if there's a search that is required here, we can easily do that. Instead of, let me do this. Let me remove the comments here actually and move this back. Okay, cool. So do that. Now the thing is, if we want to search, before we actually run the query, we can intercept it and change it to something else and then add one more variable here, which is that find. So let's just move this below to this point like that. Okay, cool. And now we have this query right here. So let me copy that query and replace with this. Let's replace because it's pretty much the same. Okay, let's do that. And the only difference now is we want to find a test because inside tests there's actually a test name. So let's come back to our, so there's in the tests table there's test ID of course, but there's also the test itself, which is the test title. So if somebody is looking for something, a particular test, they'll need a title, but that test should be part of the tests that they take from their classes, which is what this query already handles. The only difference is that we are looking in this set of tests, we are looking for a very particular one where disabled is 0, of course, but the class ID is in here, and also we should add one more. So we can add it, it says where, and then there's this. So we can intercept this where clause somewhere. Okay, So we can add it either here or we can add it at the end here, right? Let's just add it at the end here to avoid ruffling any feathers at the beginning. So we'll say it should be in here, and also the test. Okay, and test is equal to, or since it's a find, we'll use the word like, and then let's put that find over there. So test like find, and then order by blah blah blah. That's it. So the find is right here. Now it shouldn't be in array 2, it should be in array 1, because that's the one we are supplying here. So let's remove that 2 there, and equal to find, which is just like that. And just like that, we should have a proper search. So let me come back here and let's try that search. Right here, let's refresh, make sure we haven't lost anything. So I want to look for this one, particularly math. Let's try math like so. And there we go, the search works very well. Second, look at that. Awesomeness. Okay, so the search works just fine as well. Very cool. Now, the same way we have figured this out, now we can even add pagination. So now before we do that, we need to fix the profile as well, because it has the same problem. If we go to profile and we go to tests, we have a somewhat similar issue here. As you can see, the ordering is all off because there's November, there's October, there's November. Something weird here as well. If we go to the profile and let's look at the else statement here, which is not this. This is cool. This is for when the student is, the tests are marked, but there's an issue here because we also have 2 queries here. Let's put them as 1 here when we come back.